Okay, what's up guys? In my last video we actually watched Zach D films, but today we're going to be watching his YouTube story, and this channel is actually 2.5 million subscribers. I only found it a couple days ago, and this is what the videos are like.
My twin brother revved his new go-kart and yelled, "Loser does all the chores for the rest of the week." I revved
By the way, I'm only showing you this until we're getting into it, so yeah.
mine right back at Vince. Bet. I pointed at the corner store, there and back. Mom stood on the driveway holding her coffee. "Be careful, boys." As she turned to head back inside, we hit the gas before her hand even left the door. 3 blocks in, Vince hit a banana peel and his cart spun sideways into Mrs. Henley's trash cans. Garbage spilled all over the sidewalk and a trash can landed on top of Vince. "Who leaves a banana peel in the road?" I sped past him, laughing so hard I could barely steer. I turned around to laugh harder and didn't see the hay bale sitting in Mr. Kornecki's driveway. I hit it right in the middle and went flying over his lawn. Why was there a hay bale in June? Vince blew past me before I could get going again, so I cut through the Wilsons' yard to catch up and tore up their sprinklers. Water shot up behind me like a fountain. Vince tore through the Murphy's flower bed right next to me with mulch flying off his tires. We hit our driveway at the same exact moment, and Mom timed us on her phone. I beat him by half a second. I threw my fists in the air. Vince spiked his helmet so hard it bounced into the street. By 2, I was floating in the pool with a Capri Sun watching Vince push the lawnmower in the heat. Halfway through my second Capri Sun, the doorbell rang and the phone started ringing. Mom came out holding a notepad 3 pages long. Mrs. Henley wants her trash picked up. Mr. Kornecki wants his hay bale back. The Wilsons want new sprinklers. The Murphys want their flower bed replanted. And both of you are grounded until the end of the year. I won the race. We did every chore on that list together. Then we watched Dad's pickup pull out of the driveway with both our go-karts in the bed. My twin brother
So what the videos are like, I've watched that personally. So we're gonna go to shorts and go populist. If you want to check out this channel yourself, that's what the guy looks like. He has green and blue eyes, which is pretty strange. Some of these are real, but not all of them. But like, yeah. So here's his description. Oldest? Populist. Oldest. Okay, fine. Let's see what their oldest short was that they first created. Oh my god, why is it? Okay.
A teenager tortured my dog for fun, then threatened to do it again. My dog had gone missing for a few hours, and when I finally found him, he was standing outside another house in my neighborhood. He was covered in bruises, his eye was swollen shut, and blood was still dripping down his side. The teenager walked out and didn't apologize. He just told me to keep my dog on a leash, or he'd do it again. I rushed him to the vet, but he was too far gone. I had to put him down just to spare him the suffering. That dog was the only memory I had left of my late wife, Helen. So I called in a few favors and found out everything about this kid. His school, his job, his girlfriend. He was enrolled at a Catholic private school, and when I told them what he did, they expelled him within the week. His girlfriend was vegan and an animal lover, so convincing her to break up with him was easy. I sprinkled in a few lies, and she destroyed his car for revenge. Then my friends and I posed as customers at his job and filed complaints until his manager fired him on the spot. His life was gone within days, and as he was walking home after getting fired, I ran him over with my truck. A teenager tortured my dog.
The popular girls ranked every guy in our grade by attractiveness, so I ranked them by weight. Someone texted me, "Sorry bro," with a link. Every guy in our grade ranked by attractiveness and height. I was a 5. The comment next to my name said, "Average face, below average height, would not recommend." Other comments were worse. "Would be cute if he wasn't built like a middle schooler." The whole thing was anonymous, but everyone knew who made it. Tiffany and her crew. You couldn't miss Tiffany. Built like Jabba the Hutt stuffed into a Brandy Melville top. But she ran the school so nobody said anything. By the next Monday, 3 guys had deleted their socials. One kid, Darnell, stopped coming to school entirely. I saw his mom picking up his homework from the front office. She looked like she'd been crying. The girls thought it was hilarious. I heard Tiffany in the hallway saying, "It's just a joke. Guys are so sensitive." I tried to do it the right way first. Went to the school counselor and showed her the list. She said she'd look into it and did absolutely nothing. A week later, the list was still up with more comments being added. Someone ranked Darnell a 1.5 and wrote, "Generous." He still wasn't back at school. I caught Tiffany at her locker between classes. The list is hurting people. Darnell hasn't been to school in 2 weeks. You need to take it down. She looked at me with this fake pity face. Aw, are you upset about your little 5? Don't worry, I'm sure someone will settle for you eventually. Her friends howled. I didn't react. So you'd be okay if someone did the same thing to you? She laughed. No one would dare. I nodded. You're probably right. That night I sat in my room thinking about what would actually get through to her. Words didn't work. Authority didn't work. The only thing Tiffany would understand is feeling exactly what she made everyone else feel. So I opened a Google Doc and started typing. Got the weights from Instagram posts, beach photos, anything public. Estimated where I had to. Spent 3 days on it. Made sure it was brutal. Made sure Tiffany was right at the top. Friday lunch, I dropped the list at exactly noon. Within 10 minutes, it spread to every corner of the cafeteria. Girls were crying, screaming. One girl threw her phone across the room, but I kept my eyes on Tiffany. She was holding court as usual when someone handed her their phone. She squinted at the screen, scrolled. Her smile disappeared. Scrolled more. Her face went red, then purple. She was number 1, 187 pounds. Comment. Not even Ozempic could save this one. She stood up so fast her chair fell over. Her eyes scanned the cafeteria until they found me. I waved. She marched over with her whole crew behind her. You think this is funny? This is disgusting. This is body shaming. I'm reporting you. I stayed calm. Body shaming. That's crazy. It's just a joke. This isn't a joke. This is harassment. Is it? Because when I told you to take your list down, you said it was just a joke. You said guys need to stop being so sensitive. The cafeteria went dead silent. The difference is you ranked guys by height and attractiveness, things they were born with, things they can never change. I ranked by weight, something anyone can change if they wanted to. For the first time, she had nothing to say. Her friends backed away. We both got detention. Someone finally dared. The popular girls ranked every guy. I walked into the parking lot and immediately noticed a frat guy making fun of someone mentally challenged. He was just trying to go inside when the frat guys stopped him, made him get down on his knees, and start cleaning his shoes. I felt horrible because he actually started doing it. I started walking towards him ready to say something, but I could see him taking out his phone. Then I heard all of the other guys start laughing because he was patting him on the head saying, "Good idiot." I was ready to yell at him, call him everything he deserved, but then I froze. I looked over and saw someone else walking towards him. This guy was absolutely massive. He was probably 6 feet 6 inches and looked like he could bench press my car. The worst part was he was absolutely seething with rage. The frat guy was too busy making fun of him to notice, but his friends saw him. They all froze, and just as the frat guy turned around, he slapped him so hard across the head, his entire 140-pound body completely folded like a chair. He hit the ground, and the big guy helped him up. Then he took his phone and made him clean his shoes. Every time he stopped, he slapped him. I walked into the...
When I saw the girl who killed my son laughing at his funeral, I snapped. Not a seeing red snap, not a crashing out snap, a cold, calculated snap. She had accused him publicly with no proof, but her father was a congressman, so nobody questioned her. The whole city sent him death threats until he couldn't take it anymore. The courts would never touch her, so I decided to handle it myself. 20 years as a cop meant I knew people, dangerous people who owed me favors. I made one phone call. Remember when I let your brother walk? Time to repay that debt. Within 3 months, every dirty deal that congressman ever made was on the news. The feds didn't just arrest him, they seized everything. House, cars, bank accounts. His wife and daughter ended up on the streets. They went online begging for sympathy. That's when I spread rumors about her. How she'd falsely accused other boys before my son. How she destroyed lives for fun. People started recognizing her everywhere, throwing rocks at her head. One afternoon I was driving and saw her crying on the sidewalk with her mother, so I ran her over. When I saw the girl who killed my son...
Why is this so violent? They're like running everyone over.
My gym teacher had a rule about his apples. Only the pretty girls could earn them. Mr. Carter showed up every Friday carrying a canvas bag filled with 40 perfect Honeycrisp apples. I was obsessed with apples. I could eat them for every meal if my mom let me. After dodgeball, Mr. Carter sat down on the bleachers and rubbed his neck. My shoulders are killing me, he groaned. Sky walked over without being asked. She started kneading his shoulders while he closed his eyes and made this satisfied groaning sound. After 5 minutes, he reached into his bag and handed her 4 perfect apples. Jess went next. Same thing. Then Paige. When Paige finished, I walked over and reached for Mr. Carter's shoulders. He swatted my hand away. I asked if I could get some apples too, but he just laughed. Boys have rough hands, James. Go clean up the equipment. The rest of that week, I stacked mats, organized basketballs, and carried heavy equipment to the storage room, while girls sat on the bleachers and walked out with apples. I couldn't handle it anymore. I marched straight to Principal Morrison's office and told her Mr. Carter's reward system was completely unfair. She sighed and said she'd talk to him. And the next day, Mr. Carter showed up to gym class empty-handed. No apples, no rewards. Nothing. I felt victorious. If I couldn't get apples, then nobody could. That's when Jess walked past me, giggling about the new Apple Club that met after school on Fridays. Mr. Carter only invites his special helpers, she said to Sky. You should totally join. I immediately cornered Sky by her locker. What's Apple Club? She smiled. It's exclusive. Only certain people get invited. When I asked how to join, she looked at me like I'd said something stupid. You can't. The next day, I walked right up to Mr. Carter. Can I join Apple Club? He looked me up and down. Apple Club isn't for everyone, James. Only students who can prove themselves the right way. Fine. If nobody would tell me the secret, I'd figure it out myself. That Friday, I grabbed my dad's old phone before school and cut a small hole in my backpack near the zipper and tested the camera angle 3 times. After school, I got to the gym early and set my backpack on the bleachers where Mr. Carter used to hand out apples. I hit record, then hid in the equipment closet. Through the crack in the door, I watched Sky walk in, then Jess, then Paige. When I got home, I couldn't wait to finally discover the secret to getting into Apple Club. I even showed my mom. Mr. Carter's voice came through the speaker. That's perfect, sweetheart. You're so much better at this than the other girls. You have magic hands. Then groaning sounds. Then him saying, see, this is why you're my favorite. So mature for your age. She looked horrified. Finally, someone was just as angry about how unfair this was as me. She grabbed the phone from my hands. James, I need you to tell me everything about Apple Club, right now. I never saw Mr. Carter again. Now that I'm in high school, I realize it was never about the apples. My gym teacher had a rule about his apples. The lockdown alarm started blaring in class. Lockdown, school shooter. Our whole class panicked, yelling to lock the door. But Mr. Carey said, wait, don't you want to see who it is? What are you doing? We need to hide. But he wasn't worried. There's no shooter. Sit down. The alarm kept blaring. I could feel my sweat starting to drip. All the other doors slammed and lights clicked off, except for ours. We were sitting targets. Turn off the lights. Amaya was crying, but he just walked to the window and opened the blinds wider. Everyone needs to be visible. You're going to get us killed. But he wouldn't let us leave. Sit your ass down. Kids were crying now. Ashley was hyperventilating. We were the only lit classroom on this wing. Sarah asked, why are you doing this? But he just checked his watch. He should be here any second. But someone started banging on our door. Please, let me inside. He started walking over. Let me in. He's coming. Our teacher started smiling. Who's coming? I don't know. Someone with a gun. Please. I recognized the voice. I was my friend Jackson. I reached for the door, but he slapped my hand. Don't open it. I fell backwards. He should be here. Who? But then we heard it. Jackson screamed from the hall, then a bang. Then it was perfectly silent. And just then, our teacher smiled and opened the door. Everyone screamed, no, it's the shooter. We saw him walk in with a gun, and we were all ready to die. But instead of shooting us, he looked at our teacher. Hey, Dad, Dad? Sarah gasped. The man had a gun in his waistband. He pulled it out. Nobody needs to get hurt. We only need her. Mr. Carey pointed at Amaya in the back. Her. Amaya screamed. Why me? Your mother is Judge Estes. She put my son away for 10 years. He just got out. That has nothing to do with me. She took my son. Now I'm taking hers. They started walking towards Amaya. Everyone was terrified, but I had a crush on her for years and knew I couldn't let this happen. I would do anything for her. I looked over at Blake and he gave me a nod. I knew what I had to do, so I stopped them, saying, you can't take her. He pointed the gun at me. Move. No, then you die too. I thought about my mom, my little sister, but I couldn't move. Amaya was crying behind me, but I wasn't backing down. Shoot him, Mr. Carey said. He pointed the gun right at me. I was staring down the barrel, but I knew something he didn't. But that's when Blake snuck up behind them, and I saw he was ready. I saw him pick up a chair, and just as he swung it down, I reached for the gun. It hit him in the head hard, knocking him over, red spilling everywhere. Mr. Carey lunged at me, but I pointed it at him. Back up, you psycho! He started moving away. Just give me the gun, kid. No, you don't know how to use it, but I didn't care. Point and squeeze. I'll figure it out. I should shoot you right now. He kept backing up, right towards Amaya, and grabbed her. He pulled a knife from his pocket, holding it up to her neck. Do it, kid! Don't miss! He was holding her, and if I accidentally missed him, she'd for sure die. Let her go! But I knew I had no choice. Say goodbye to her! He raised the knife, stabbing downwards, and in that moment, I squeezed the trigger. The gun fired, the bullet whizzing past Amaya and hitting Mr. Carey in the shoulder. He fell back, just as the police burst in, and in that moment, we realized it was over. My bank called and said someone just
I'm not gonna end it yet.
withdrew $100,000 from my account in Las Vegas, but I was in Pennsylvania. That was everything. 10 years of savings, emergency fund, down payment for a house, all of it gone in one night. I told them to freeze the account and rushed to the bank with numbing gel still in my mouth from the dentist. The bank pulled up the...
Sorry about that cut, bro. Sorry.
the transaction details, multiple withdrawals from a casino. My bank called and said someone just withdrew $100,000 from my account in Las Vegas, but I was in Pennsylvania. That was everything. 10 years of savings, emergency fund, down payment for a house, all of it gone in one night. I told them to freeze the account and rushed to the bank with numbing gel still in my mouth from the dentist. The bank pulled up the transaction details, multiple withdrawals from a casino, ATM starting at 1 a.m., 20,000, then 30, then 50. Whoever did this knew exactly how much was in there, and they had my debit card and PIN. That's impossible, I said. My card is right here, except when I reached for my wallet, it wasn't. My wife Rose called while I was still processing, "Where's your dad?" His phone's going straight to voicemail. I froze. My father was 72 and had been showing memory problems lately. Repeated stories, forgotten appointments. Last week he asked about taking my mother dancing. She'd been dead for 5 years. "When's the last time you talked to him?" 2 days ago? He seemed fine, but she trailed off. We both knew something was wrong. The bank manager showed me security footage from the casino. ATM grainy, but I could see someone in a baseball cap and jacket. Something about the way they stood looked familiar. When they zoomed in, my blood went cold. That was my father's Steelers jacket, the one I bought him 3 Christmases ago. I called him 15 times. Nothing. Called his neighbors. Called the police for a wellness check. They called back 20 minutes later. Car's gone. Mail piled up. Looks like he left days ago. Rose met me at his house. His medications were still in the cabinet. Passport still in the drawer. But on his kitchen table was an old photo album open to pictures of my parents in their 20s. My mom wearing a showgirl costume. My dad looking young in a cheap suit. Underneath was a Vegas postcard from 1978. Then my phone rang. Nevada number. "Is this Bryce Welts? Your father is at University Medical Center in Las Vegas. He's stable, but there's been a situation." I flew out that night. Found him in a hospital bed looking confused and small. The doctor said he'd been found at a roulette table at 6 a.m., disoriented, unable to remember where he was staying. He kept talking about his wife being in the showgirl review. Kept saying he needed to win big to impress her. He thought it was 1978. Thought my mother was still alive and 24 years old. The dementia specialist explained that he'd taken my debit card during dinner 2 weeks ago without even remembering, then flew to Vegas thinking he was young again, trying to relive the trip where he'd proposed to my mom 46 years ago. I sat with him for hours, trying to accept that our savings were gone, that my father's mind was going, that he'd never fully come back to us. That's when a casino manager walked into the hospital room. My father hadn't just been withdrawing money, he'd been gambling and winning. He turned $100,000 into $512,000 over 48 hours playing roulette. But now the casino was investigating us for fraud. They thought we'd sent a dementia patient in on purpose to exploit gambling regulations. We spent 6 months in legal hell proving his condition was real and undiagnosed. Eventually they settled and let us keep the money. My dad doesn't remember any of it. Sometimes he still asks when we're going to Vegas to see Mom's show. My bank called and said I made my school hire an exorcist with a Bluetooth speaker the size of my thumb. It was the middle of winter in 8th grade, and me and my best friend Devin had nothing going on. One night, he texted me a link to this tiny Bluetooth speaker, small but loud. So we came up with a plan that felt genius at the time. We'd hide the speaker in the ceiling above Mrs. Evans's desk, play fart sounds during English class, and grab it after school before anyone figured it out. During lunch, we snuck in, and I stood lookout while Devin climbed up and popped the tile. He dropped the speaker in, and we were out in 30 seconds. After lunch, we tested it with one fart sound, and the whole class erupted. Mrs. Evans just stood there asking who did that. Me and Devin almost passed out trying not to laugh. We planned to grab it after school, but Mrs. Evans stayed late grading papers until 5. We figured we'd get it tomorrow. That was our first mistake. Day 2, we kept it going. Different farts. A burp. One that sounded like a dying whale. Mrs. Evans was losing her mind, checking backpacks and desks. Day 3, the speaker was still up there because she never left the room. We figured why stop now? Day 4, things got weird. Other teachers heard it through the vents. The math teacher accused kids of hiding a phone. The science teacher thought his radiator was broken. By day 5, the principal made an announcement about unusual sounds in the building and said they were investigating. Day 6, maintenance checked the vents and pipes, found nothing. Day 7, the janitor, Mr. Rick, told kids he heard the sounds at night when no one was in the building. That's when kids started saying the school was haunted. Day 10, the speaker was still going. I looked up the battery life, and it said 8 hours. It had been almost 2 weeks. I started thinking something was actually wrong with this thing. Day 12, a parent called the school worried about demonic activity. Her daughter was too scared to come to class. Day 14, we had an emergency assembly, and the principal said they were bringing in a specialist. I thought maybe a plumber or electrician. Then Devin showed me the email his mom got. They hired an exorcist, an actual exorcist from a church 2 towns over. That's when I knew we had gone way too far. He showed up on a Monday morning, tall guy with gray hair and a long black robe carrying a Bible and holy water like he was about to battle a demon from a movie. Kids were glued to the windows. Teachers gave gave up trying to teach. The whole school just watched this man walk down the hallway praying and splashing water on lockers. I was sitting in Mrs. Evans' class with my heart pounding. Devin was next to me trying not to laugh. I whispered that we needed to come clean before this got worse. He whispered back that I was insane and this was the best thing that ever happened to him. Then the exorcist stopped at our door. He stepped inside and the entire room went silent. He walked to the middle of the class and closed his eyes and started praying real loud. That's when Devin made the worst decision of his life. He pulled out his phone under the desk and played one more fart sound. The exorcist's eyes shot open. Nobody moved. He looked up slowly at the ceiling right above Mrs. Evans's desk and asked for a ladder. Mr. Rick brought one, and the exorcist climbed up and pushed the tile aside. He reached in and pulled out a tiny, dust-covered Bluetooth speaker. He held it up and looked at it for a long time. Then he turned to Mrs. Evans and said, "Well, that's a first." Mrs. Evans looked confused for half a second before her face twisted into pure rage. She scanned the room and spotted Devin still holding his phone like an idiot. He gave her a little wave. I made my school high. Our teacher walked up to the dumb.
Fart sounds. Right, I wish I could do that. That brings back old memories from like year 2 or 3.
Student and asked, "You're not blind. Why are you wearing sunglasses?" She didn't say anything. She just shook her head and kept her head down. I said, "Take them off." Rhonda's hands went to the frames, held them against her face. "Please, I need them." Mrs. Porter leaned closer to Rhonda and said, "Take them off, or I'm taking them off for you." Rhonda was shaking now. Suddenly, Mrs. Porter grabbed them. Rhonda screamed and tried to hold on, but Mrs. Porter yanked them off her face. Rhonda's eyes, or where her eyes should have been, were swollen shut. Purple, black, yellow at the edges. Her whole face was bruised. Cuts on her eyebrow. Split lip I hadn't noticed under the frames. She looked like she'd been beaten with a bat. Mrs. Porter stumbled backward. What happened to you?" Rhonda didn't answer. She was crying now, tears leaking from swollen slits. Mrs. Porter looked at the sunglasses in her hand and saw there were tiny answers to the test written on the inside of the lenses. Mrs. Porter asked, "Were you cheating by writing the answers on the inside of your glasses?" Rhonda's voice cracked and she said, "Please, it's not my fault. I couldn't see. I couldn't study. My eyes were swollen shut all night. I didn't know what else to do." Mrs. Porter asked, "Who did this to you?" She didn't respond. I stood up, walked to her desk, and knelt down beside her. "Rhonda, who did this?" She looked at me through those swollen slit and whispered, "It was the school-appointed math tutor, Ms. Hutchins." I asked, "Is that the one who forced you to work with her when you failed the first exam?" Rhonda nodded. "She hits me when I get answers wrong. She says I'm stupid. She says I deserve it." She touched her face. "I got a lot wrong this week." I looked around the room. Every guy was already standing and getting ready to take action. Marcel, Devin, Spencer. Marcel spoke to the class while cracking his knuckles and getting ready to fight. He said, "She's in room 114. Devin rolled his neck. Spencer was already walking toward the door. I still don't know what happened, but Miss Hutchins was escorted out in handcuffs with 3 broken bones. Our teacher.
My neighbor kept destroying our snowmen, so I made sure the next one fought back. We'd spent the whole day building an 8-foot snowman, and it was just getting dark when I saw the headlights turn onto our street. The truck plowed straight through it, and snow exploded everywhere. My youngest was standing next to me and started crying. I didn't know how to tell him that some people were just mean, so I pointed at the scattered snow. "You know what though? Did you see how far the head flew? That was actually kind of cool." My youngest wiped his eyes and nodded. "It went really far." I smiled. "Next time let's build it right by the street and watch it happen." The next Saturday we built another one right by the street, and my boys pressed their faces against the window at night watching for the truck. When it came roaring down and demolished the snowman, they jumped up and down. "The head went so far, Dad." We did this for 3 years. Build, watch, rebuild. Then my youngest stopped running. He couldn't get out of bed some mornings. The doctors gave us a number of weeks, and my son made me promise we'd build one more. So I pushed his wheelchair outside, and he sat there wrapped in blankets pointing where to pack the snow. His brothers rolled the middle section while I lifted it into place. It took us all day. When we finished, I hammered stakes into the ground around it and tied rope. I wrote, "Please don't hit this one," on cardboard and hung it on the rope. 3 days later, he died. I knew they'd come for the snowman eventually, so I walked across the street and knocked on my neighbor's door. My hand was shaking. The father opened the door and I looked him in the eye. "My son just died. That snowman is the last memory I have of him. Please leave this one alone." He looked at me for maybe half a second, then shrugged. "That's rough and all, but it's just a snowman." I heard his son laugh from inside. The door slammed in my face. 2 days after we buried my son, I was lying in bed when I heard the engine. I ran to the window and watched headlights turn onto our street. The truck accelerated straight toward the snowman, hit dead center, and snow exploded into the air. The father was hanging out the passenger window cheering, and that's when I knew he had to pay. I went upstairs and shook my boys awake. "Get dressed. We're rebuilding it." We worked through the night rolling snowballs under the streetlights. My older sons didn't say anything, just kept packing snow. I built this one directly around the fire hydrant at the edge of my property. property, carefully positioning each layer around the metal. After they went to bed, I dragged the hose out and soaked it. I did this for 3 straight nights, watering and letting it freeze until the snow was solid ice. Then I sat by the window every night watching the street. My boys would come downstairs asking if tonight was the night. A week passed. Then I heard it. That engine. I grabbed my phone and started recording. The truck came flying down the street and slammed into my snowman at full speed. The sound was like a car crash, metal crunching. The truck's entire front end crumpled. The impact ripped the hydrant off its base and water shot 30 feet straight up into the air. The truck spun and water shot everywhere, flooding the street as the father kicked open his door and crawled out. When he turned to look at my house, my boys and I were standing in the window. We all raised our middle fingers at the same time and went to bed smiling. My neighbor kept destroying our... A student walked into my English class swinging a katana, and I knew exactly where he got it. My best friend ran our school's black market. His dad was a bladesmith who had no problem cranking out professional knives and even swords for his son to sell at school. But a few days earlier, my friend sold to a kid everyone knew was mentally unstable. I specifically told him not to do it, but he shrugged me off, saying the kid was paying 25% more and not selling would be bad for business. So there I was in English when this kid walked in like a samurai and unsheathed a goddamn katana. He just eyeballed the teacher. Every student backed against the wall as fast as we could. Someone peed themselves in fear. We watched him inch closer, muttering something under his breath. When there was an opening to the door, everyone ran, leaving the teacher completely alone. We scattered through the halls screaming for help, but by the time staff arrived, it was too late. The teacher was alive, but missing a hand. The student had vanished. What came out in court is that this teacher had done inappropriate things to the student's sister. So as revenge, the kid took his hand. When asked where he got the katana, he just said, "The black market." My friend and his dad never faced any legal consequences. A student walked in. A 375-pound girl broke into my... I called 911 on myself to get a free ride home. I woke up 22 hours later with a massive headache and no memory when my roommate high-fived me and called me Boozebert Einstein. Apparently drunk me pulled off the smartest thing he'd ever seen. It was 3 a.m. and we were completely hammered outside a bar. The problem was we were 30 minutes from home by car and 3 hours on foot. We couldn't call a cab because earlier that night we traded our last $20 to a stranger for 2 cigarettes. We had no money, no ride, and could barely stand. So drunk me came up with a plan. I called 911 and in my best girl voice said, "Hello, there's 2 drunk guys walking up 3rd Street yelling. Could you send someone to pick them up?" The officer replied, "Right away, ma'am, we'll send a car." 3rd Street was 5 minutes away, so I dragged my friend there and told him to start yelling. We shouted about the good old days until a cop car pulled up. They saw we weren't a threat, just 2 drunk idiots, so they offered us a ride. 30 minutes later, we were home. During the ride, I got into a heated debate with an officer about whether aliens exist. When I got inside, I microwaved a pizza pocket but accidentally set it to an hour and passed out. The microwave caught fire. When I woke up, I found 1/8 of snow in my pocket. I sat in that cop car for 30 minutes with enough on me to catch a felony. Boozebert Einstein almost became Diddy's little plaything. I called 911 on...
Oh damn. Do like 5 more.
My gym teacher kept dying and coming back to life. We were in gym class when he collapsed for the first time. In seconds, he was throwing up, and when he was done, he lay completely still on the floor. My dad's an EMT, so I knew how to check his pulse and his breath. He was clinically dead. Suddenly, the emo kid of our class shoved me out of the way. He huddled around the gym teacher, and none of us could see what he was doing. But after a few seconds, our gym teacher stood up like nothing happened. "Sorry guys, I've just been feeling sleepy today," he exclaimed before blowing his whistle to get us to do more push-ups. None of us knew what was going on, and we were all too scared to ask. But the next day, it happened again, and the week after that. Every time, the emo kid was the one to save him. It made no sense, and the school refused to acknowledge what was going on. Rumors started spreading that the emo kid was the one causing it. Turns out he was dating the gym teacher's daughter before she took her own life, and people were saying that he blamed her dad for what happened. I started paying closer attention to the emo kid after that. He carried a black duffel bag everywhere and never let anyone touch it. After school, once I saw the gym teacher shoving the emo kid against a locker. "Stop doing this to me, or I will have you expelled." The emo kid just stood there. I honestly thought he was being blackmailed, and I was ready to report him. But on Tuesday, everything changed. We were in gym class, same as always, when the gym teacher collapsed. But this time, the emo kid wasn't there. I tried to save him like my dad taught me, but it didn't work. The paramedics showed up and tried to bring him back to life, but they ended up declaring him as dead. A week later, the emo kid kid finally told us what happened in the school group chat. Turns out, the gym teacher was trying to stop his own heart on purpose so he could visit his dead daughter who ended her life. And the emo kid was the only one who knew what he was doing, and he had a special syringe with a remedy that brought him back to life every time. Except that day, the emo kid was too sick to come to school, and the gym teacher ended his life. I pulled into the last free disabled parking spot, and a man started stomping towards me. He started tapping his knuckles on the glass so hard I thought it was going to crack. "Move, I'm disabled. You're clearly not. This spot is for my daughter with PTSD, I said calmly. He leaned down and looked into the back seat. "Why do you have PTSD, little girl? Is it because your mommy is gone?" he asked, mocking her. My daughter curled into a ball and started crying. "She's dead," she squeaked. The man laughed. "I don't blame her. If I was with your ugly dad and had you as a daughter, I would have wanted to die too." Then he noticed her arms and saw her scars. He rolled up his sleeve and slapped his own arm. "Look, I'm self-injuring it too. Where's my parking spot?" I saw his phone filming my daughter having an anxiety attack and slapped it out of his hand. It flew across the pavement. He then literally crawled under the car to find it. Then I heard my daughter laugh. "What are you laughing
Just get in the car and run him over like all the other ones.
at?" She pointed over my shoulder. A white SUV was backing into the spot where the man's legs lay. The guy was writhing on the ground. My daughter yelled too. "You wanted to be disabled? You got it, mister." I pulled into the last. I was mad at my mom because she wouldn't buy me ice cream after I begged her for hours. So I started planning my revenge. On the way home, we had one last stop. So when my mom went inside another store and left me in the car, I decided to play a prank on her. She left the windows rolled down, just enough so I could slip out. I climbed outside and sat in a bush not far from the car. 6-year-old me sat there giggling, thinking it would be hilarious when my mom realized I wasn't there. When she did come out, I saw her drop her bags and scream. She was yelling my name, searching the entire car, checking underneath it. I thought the whole thing was so funny at the time. She called the cops who showed up quickly, and before I knew it, there were sirens and cops everywhere looking for me. I overheard someone telling my mom they saw a man grab me and run away, but I was confused. That didn't happen. Then I saw a helicopter overhead, and I knew it had gone too far. My mom was probably worried, but then I heard a scream. I jumped out of the bush ready to surprise my mom and just go home, but when I did, I saw her on the ground surrounded by paramedics. They immediately started giving her CPR, and I realized she was having a heart attack from the stress. I yelled, "Mom!" But before I could get over to them, the cops grabbed me. "Where have you been?" But I started crying and told them I just got lost. They raced her to the hospital, and when the doctor came out, he looked upset. He told me he knew what I did, but that she was alive and her heart was beating. She survived, but I never told her it was a prank. I was mad at my mom. When my best friend ran up to me after school and told me he got invited to a party, I was instantly nervous. In North Korea, if you were caught doing anything illegal, you'd never see your family again. I knew it was a bad idea, but he was begging me to go, saying his crush was gonna be there, and when I saw how excited he was, I caved. We showed up that night, and he went to talk to her. I was nervous because people were drinking, saying things about the government. I knew if police heard, they'd get taken from their families. But not even 5 minutes later, I heard someone crying. I looked up and saw my best friend come back over to me with tears in his eyes. He was trying so hard not to cry in front of everyone, but when I asked him what happened, he just dragged me outside. He told me he tried to talk to her, but she just made fun of him and laughed at his shirt. She said she doesn't date poor people who can't afford nicer clothes, and I told him we should just leave, but he wouldn't listen. He could see a clothing store down the street, and when he started walking over, I got a terrible feeling. He just stared at a jacket through the window, and I told him he'd be able to afford it one day, and we needed to leave. But before I could say anything else, he bent down and picked up a rock. My heart stopped. I said, "What are you doing?" He didn't answer, and in that moment, he threw it. No! The window shattered, and glass shards cut my arms and face. The alarm started blaring as I screamed, "What are you doing? They're gonna catch us!" But he reached through the broken glass and grabbed the coat. We immediately started running, but heard sirens behind us. I knew we'd get executed if we were caught, and I could feel the sweat dripping off me. We ran back to my house and slammed the door, but we could hear them following us. We both couldn't stop shaking. We thought we had to be safe. There was no way they saw us go into my house. But just as we calmed down, someone knocked on our front door. We both froze, but when I peeked around the corner, I saw my little sister walking over to open it. I yelled, "No!" but it was too late. She turned the lock, and multiple officers instantly shoved the door open, knocking her to the ground. They saw me, covered in cuts from the glass, and grabbed me, throwing me to the ground. They'd beat me with bats, kicked me, and my mom was screaming from down the hall. all. Please, stop. They pulled out their handcuffs, and I felt the cold metal on my wrist. This was it. Being arrested for stealing in North Korea meant the end of your life. I looked over at my mom. I looked at my little sister standing in the corner, frozen, tears running down her face. This was it for me. But just before the cuffs clicked, my friend yelled, "Wait! He didn't do it!" The officers turned to look at him. He was standing there, shaking, barely able to get the words out. It was me. I did it. He didn't steal anything. I did. He held up the jacket, and the officers looked at each other. Then they dropped me and walked over to him. They grabbed him and took the jacket, and I'll never forget his face as he walked out. He was gone, and I haven't seen him since. I pray he's still out there. When my best
Bye guys, thank you guys for watching. Should I watch Luke Davidson next? Comment down below if I should. If I shouldn't, I don't know. Please get this video viral. Like, look at how viral this video got and how viral this channel gets. Like, please
ran up to me
make
after
that
school and
viral, bro, please. I'll watch one more. I'll watch his most popular video.